it's Lauren here. A warning, this episode contains deep chats, lots of swear words, and some things you might find upsetting, but you know that we cannot help but overshare.
Hi, it's Gemma.
And Lauren.
And you're listening to Oops, We Overshared Again.
A podcast all about oversharing because we just cannot help ourselves. This is the bit we struggle with.
No, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It will be. It's going to be good. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us today.
I'm excited. I always enjoy talking to you too.
And we always enjoy talking to you.
I'm very excited. We'll probably quiz you quite a lot, to be fair, today, and just ask loads of questions because just fascinated.
Yeah. I don't even know like where this conversation is going to go. I feel like we could have had this conversation even 9 months ago, and I feel like it would be very different. So who knows where we're going to end up.
Do you know, though, I must admit, you to me are like the expert when it comes to all things manifestation and just
I love
like,
that.
yeah.
The thing that I feel like I've got myself into a bit of a weird place now, though, in that as we go through these things and we grow and we evolve and we learn more and, have different experiences and all that kind of stuff, I feel like my perspective has changed and I almost don't quite know yet. Maybe this will help this conversation, how to actually articulate what I feel and think now in the way of kind of sharing and teaching, if you get me. So I feel like when it comes to manifestation, I haven't actually spoke about it in a little bit, and it's almost because I haven't quite figured out how I want to express that yet. So yeah, hopefully this conversation will kind of force me to figure that out.
That's really interesting. Do you think, because obviously you've been kind of into the idea of manifestation and more spirituality and things for a while, I say obviously through conversations that we've had, is it something that you're kind of losing that kind of interest or belief, or is it just that you don't know how to share it with others?
I think it's because I'm at a point now where I I understand it more and I feel like I embody it more, and because of that it's almost become very, very simple to me. And I've shed a lot of the need to be so bullshitty with it, especially in terms of kind of from a teaching point of view. So don't get me wrong, all of the kind of manifestation tips and tricks and hacks and things that I've definitely shared before, and I do think there is still a place for those, because especially when it's brand new to you, I do think, honestly, I think I've been kind of doing this for about 3 years now, and I genuinely think in some areas of my life I'm only just actually changed those really deep-rooted subconscious beliefs, only just. And I think so through the things like the affirmations and the writing it out however many times, and all that kind of wanky stuff, I feel like that definitely helps, because it's that continuous repetition does definitely help you to kind of rewire your subconscious. But actually that kind of is just all bullshit. That's not actually doing anything apart from on more of a psychological level, if you kind of get me. And it's from that place that to me it almost now just feels very, very simple, which then feels hard to post about. How many kind of posts of, I can't just post the same things 7 times a week because it's just all about ultimately, I mean obviously there is lots and lots of different layers, but ultimately finding that complete self-belief and just cultivating an intention from a place of just pure knowing that comes from embodying it. And to me, that's kind of like, that's it now. And so I kind of feel like I don't know how many times and in how many different ways I can repeat that. So yeah, it's kind of, and it's all, I mean, it's come full circle with me in my kind of journey, especially like in the online space as well, of not really knowing how exactly I want to share things anymore, and trying to figure that out, but also a point of like, how do I share what I actually think and feel about manifestation these days in a way that's still fun, because the tips and the hacks are fun. Doing the like grueling self-belief work isn't that fun.
Can I ask you though, why do you want to share it?
I think because it's changed my perspective on life so radically. If I knew how to kind of like bottle that up and give that to every single person in the world, I absolutely would do that. And I guess ultimately it's from finding a way of sharing and articulating, isn't it? That ultimately is that bottling up of it. But because on paper, I mean, a lot has changed over the last kind of 3 years, but fundamentally the big vision things I want, my life hasn't hugely changed on paper since I kind of came into this space, but my perspective and my like inner peace and my kind of fulfillment in the mundane has completely changed. And ultimately, I mean, we all know, isn't it, that is what we are and should actually be striving for, right?
Yeah. Do you think though that the reason that it hasn't changed kind of the things around you as much is because ultimately those big things that you had at the start of, say, this 3 years that you were like, I want all of these things, actually in the end turns out to be not all of the things that you wanted? Some of them maybe you still do, but it's actually maybe more so that you've shifted what you want as well. And actually what you call the mundane, the having a normal job and all of that stuff, that's the stuff that you now want and enjoy. So it's kind of, you've kind of almost gone back full circle.
I know, it's so annoying, isn't it? You know, and you're like, oh great.
You needed to, because you would have never enjoyed
100%.
your like a 9 to 5 job, whatever that was, unless you had gone on this journey. And now you do, you enjoy it, you love having friends at work and all of that stuff, and you would never know that if you hadn't done it on your own, I don't think.
No, absolutely not. And I think as well, even just having this, I feel like I have a passion project now. And again, right now, currently, it still feels a little bit hazy in how that's actually going to kind of like manifest itself into whatever it's going to be. But just even feeling like you have something to be quite passionate about makes doing things, say like having a normal job in quotations, so much more kind of bearable. But it literally is all just about perspective. I think from a kind of manifestation point of view, in terms of getting what you want, isn't saying I want this to happen and it happens. I've always been quite good at getting the material things I want. I mean, you could say manifest, you could say, I mean, it is manifesting. I feel like this is a kind of conversation that I feel like I want to have, but I'm kind of like struggling how to delve into it. The difference between manifesting something and being privileged. But I think I've always been quite good at manifesting or getting what I want, the material things. God, back in the day, all I would have wanted was to be happy, and just like I feel happiness and like not cry every day. So actually, I sit here and say, my life hasn't kind of changed that much. There's still like lots of things that I want, but to be honest, the fact that I've even kind of like manifested that life is, you know, the absolute winning goal for me. So
it's all internal stuff. Like if I was to, I mean, I didn't know you 3 years ago, but if I was to look at both of you, maybe to me it's like, well, she's, you know, not that much has changed around you, but to you, you've changed everything inside. And that's like all the material stuff that all of us want. And I don't think it's wrong to want loads of material stuff. I don't think any of that's an issue, but the reason we all do, or some of us do, is because we ultimately think it's going to make us happier. So if you've achieved that happiness, that's
now
what
it gets to be the cherry on the cake, doesn't it? It gets to be there. I get to get everything I want in life, everything I desire, from, you know, the big stuff to just the nice bougie shit we want. And I get to be very happy as well, because there's obviously a very much a portrayal in life where, you know, rich people are all miserable and all that kind of stuff, which I don't, well, it probably is true for a lot of them, but I don't, that's not the only way.
Well, it's the same as people are sad. Like you can be kind of it's there's
Don't you think as well though, and I was thinking this the other day, like how what we want does change. And sometimes, like, for example, I've always wanted a Chanel bag. For as long as I can tell you, that has been something I've always wanted, until recently, when, I mean, this might sound so stupid, but I never put 2 and 2 together that lambskin was lamb's skin.
Yeah.
And so I said, I was talking to Ben, and obviously I'm a vegan, right? And he's like, what do you think a Chanel bag's made from? And I was like, well, depends. I was like, but the one I want's lambskin. And he's like, what is it? I was like, lambskin. He's like, no, slow that down.
Let's make it one word of this, like, new material.
I don't know why. My brain did not compute the 2 things together. But then it got me thinking as well. It's like other stuff that I'd put on, like, you know, vision boards or wish lists or whatever. I was like, how much of that, and being in this space that, you know, we're all in, and kind of, you know, the buzzword for me is, you know, 10k months, for example, and things like that, stuff that I never would have thought about before, or stuff that never would have really crossed my mind, or, you know, flicking through and seeing influencers with the latest bag or shoes, or I never would have known about these brands without. I think some of that as well, when we talk, well, from my perspective, when you talk about manifestation, I think it doesn't necessarily come to us anyway, because we don't really want it.
I know, isn't it? Especially, I think, on the topic of money coming, because I was exactly the same when I first entered the online space. I didn't have any idea of what kind of like financial norms that you could kind of claim, and all of a sudden I was like feeling disappointed that I was like wasn't getting them when they were like you say, on my manifestation list and on my vision boards. And, you know, I was like furious that I wasn't manifesting like my financially free life in Bali, which I literally never ever wanted before. You're so right. It's like, it's very much being able to differentiate between what you actually want and what kind of the community you're in tells you should want.
I think the reasons for wanting things can be very different as well, and I think sometimes that's why certain things do land and certain things don't. Like for me, and looking at, and I think this comes with age a little bit and maybe more general happiness and stuff like that, and so it changes. But for me, like I'll take one thing for an example, wanting a bigger car, right? If you'd have asked me when I was 20 why I wanted a bigger car, it was mainly, and a nice car was mainly for the look of it, right? And for the kind of status that comes with it. It kind of looks like you're doing well for yourself and all of that. Whereas now, if you ask why I want a big car, I still want a nice car, don't get me wrong, but I want a bigger car because I want to have children and because I feel safer when I'm up high and I'm in a bigger car. And it's not for the same. And actually, the only reason I still really want a new car is because I have such travel anxiety that the idea of breaking down scares me. So it's a different reason. And it's the same with wanting a bigger house. It's because we would like to have children and we want to live comfortably, and we would like to have outside space so we can do that, and so Steve can go fishing, and like it's more about the happiness rather than the look what I've got. And don't get me wrong, I still do have those moments, and I'm not putting down on that. Sometimes I buy things purely because I always say I don't ever spend money on makeup, and everyone always finds it really weird, but it's because people don't compliment me for a new mascara, whereas they do for a new top. So I would rather spend my money on a new top. But because you can't tell if I'm wearing a new mascara. So I do have those moments as well. But when it comes to the big stuff now, it's for a different reason. Even though a lot of the same things I still want, it's for very, very different reasons.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, no, that really does. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like, I think it would probably be healthy for us all to take stock of what it is, the things that we're manifesting, and actually do that process and kind of like ask yourself, why do I want that? And actually, could I give myself that in a totally different way? Do I need to like set this like extreme bar to get that? Because ultimately, anything that we're trying to manifest, any desire we have, is because we are chasing a feeling that it's giving us. And I've kind of like taught this concept in like workshops and stuff so often, and you know, one of the easiest ways to kind of hack that is to like steal that feeling from somewhere else in your life. Because say for instance you're wanting to, let's use that example of, you know, manifest a bigger car because you find that it makes you feel safer. You can get yourself on that kind of same energetic frequency of that, you know, to help you attract it by stealing the feeling of being safe from somewhere else in your life. So we always have, you know, the ability to tap into the feelings we're chasing from somewhere. Like we already have those, but sometimes, you know, we do kind of just need to realize that and maybe not attach that feeling onto the material things quite so much, as in not necessarily to say that you shouldn't want them, because my God, I absolutely am still a very kind of bougie, bratty, materialistic hoe. Like I want all these like, you know, stupidly ridiculous, not needed things, but I want them now, instead of it from being a kind of place of desperation to validate myself or for the status, or you know, to have that make me appear in some kind of way. It's because now it was kind of just be like, this is already amazing, and wouldn't it be fucking epic if I could have that as well? And it's a very kind of different energy from what I started manifesting things from. Like when I think back to the first vision board I made, I even have it, and it ended up like under my bed because it got to the point where I felt so like disaligned with it. I was looking at it the other day and I was actually like, that's so like, they were all, it was almost like it was a vision board for show. Do you know what I mean?
But
Yeah,
don't you find as well, and this is something that I get swept up in this myself and have to be like, whoa, is that I think words like manifestation, spirituality, and all that, it's so like a buzzword almost. And it's, you know, a lot of people that you see that talk about manifesting things. And there's a girl I follow on Instagram called the Manifestation Babe.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's like, you know, her stuff, you know, she's just had a kid and she's like, oh, rich mom energy and all this stuff, and like showing about all this stuff that she's manifested and these holidays and this, that, and the other. And you sort of almost sit thinking, that's what I need to manifest, because if I don't manifest that kind of shit, then I'm not doing it properly.
Yeah.
And whereas for me, my big manifestation is I always, and this is my claim, I always get a parent and child parking space when I'm out. And that is since I read The Secret. That's my manifestation. I'll be honest, apart from a couple of little unexpected monies that I've had, that's my main one. Haven't quite graduated beyond that, but I am proud to say I always get a good parking space whenever I go out.
And the thing is now, because you just deeply innately know, like that is just like in your genetic DNA now, that you get a parent and child parking space. Like that is why it just happens to you, because you completely deeply know it to be a fact.
Even today, I went out without the child, and the only spaces that I could find were parent and child. And I was like, not today, universe. I can't park there. I don't have a child.
So as soon as you get yourself to that point where you are just completely not even convinced, but just know that in that same energy of something else, that, you know, that's when you will stretch that to getting the, you know.
I mean, the lottery win hasn't happened yet, but you know, small
Well,
steps.
that one will raise that. It's so funny, isn't it? Because obviously, I literally entered that Omaze house one like 2 days ago, you know, the one that's always on the telly.
Yeah.
I haven't won that yet, but you're always fighting against like however other million people are also trying to manifest the same thing. Isn't it crazy to think we all like pin our hopes on like a huge win like that so much, when statistically we are more likely to make that money ourselves than to ever win it? But yeah, we want the win, don't we?
I mean, I'll be honest, Hannah, I don't actually play the lottery, which probably makes my odds a little bit less.
It definitely
I still plan how I'm going to spend it though.
Wow.
My mum used to absolutely terrify us when we were kids, because she used to say to us that if she won the lottery, she would send me and my brother to private school. And I didn't want to go to private school. And I used to be like, please don't win the lottery, don't win the lottery. And I didn't find out until I was an adult that she never actually did the lottery. So I lived in fear for like zero reason. So thanks for that, mum. But she said it to me literally the other day, which is what made me think of it. She was like, I still would have sent you to private school if I'd won. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't play. Like, you were never going to win. But is that what you would say, like in its simplest terms? Is that how you would describe what manifestation even is, Hannah? Just knowing something's going to happen?
Yeah, because ultimately the definition of manifesting is claiming an intention for yourself and making it happen. And that can be with, you know, with the help of universal intelligence, or it could just be you being proactive and getting shit done, and, you know, forcing it to happen as opposed to letting it happen, which I think are two very different energies. And you're going to do those in different ways in your life, aren't you? So ultimately it is just claiming an intention for yourself and making it happen. That how we can, but yes, then we can use energy to help that happen. And that is when it comes in the way of, you know, those unexpected little miracles and things just working out in your favor that you couldn't kind of possibly explain how they just are, and kind of that's the manifestation. And I think that comes from just living your life fully believing that it always comes back around to self-belief, and that is something that's such like multifaceted for us, because we will have complete like rock solid self-belief in one area of our life and it be a complete shambles in another. So it's like a very hard, and because obviously so much of our life is like intertwined with each other, like so many areas of our life all kind of like muddle into each other, it can get quite messy. So like, say for you, Gemma, why is it that you can absolutely believe that you're going to get a parking space but not believe, well, apart from the fact that you don't actually play the lottery, but it's, you know, if it's
the thing with that is though, right? And I remember I bought my first lottery ticket on my 16th birthday. I don't think you can play till you're 18 now. When I was younger, it was 16. I went, and you used to be able to buy cigarettes when you were 16. So I went, left because I was at sixth form, went down to the shop. I bought myself a pack of 10 Sovereign. The woman was very confused when I showed her my ID, because I'd been going there for at least 2 years buying fags beforehand with a different ID, and a lottery ticket. And I fully believed with every fibre of my being that I was going to win. And I was like, I'm going to be in the papers because I've won on my 16th birthday, because my 16th birthday was on a Saturday. Got home, or Friday, whenever it was. Sat there, watched the lottery with my mum. I went, that's wrong. She went, what? I went, that's wrong. She went, what do you mean? I went, I didn't win. What? I was like, but I genuinely was like, no, Telly's wrong. And then, but I've always had that kind of, or like I've planned down to the last penny how I would spend it. And this is before I even knew about manifestation. I would just become a bit obsessed with, oh, I'm going to play the lottery on Saturday or Wednesday or whatever, because I'm going to win. So on Thursday, I can do X, Y, and Z. No, actually, it takes 48 hours for the money to clear. Right, by Friday then. And that is my logic.
You
But
really
I
have
to
to.
win.
You've done it. You've done it with me before, and I can't remember if it was the lottery or whether it was a potential client or something, but you literally sat there and you explained to me how you were going to spend that money.
Premium bonds, £1 million.
That was it. And it was very specific. Like, I'm having this, I know exactly which one, I've already looked it up, I know I've got that link ready.
I could show you notes on my phone where literally I've got like £1 million win. This is how I'm going to spend it. In fact, once I was so convinced I was going to win it, I rang, because my grandparents live in Spain, but I'm very, very close, and my nan's got dementia. They come home and stay with us a lot. And if I come into any money of any considerable amount, the first thing I will do is buy them a bungalow so they can move back to England and near me, so I can help my granddad look after my nan. So I said to my granddad, I went, I've got a feeling I'm winning it this month. Right, I'm going to ring an estate agent. I booked myself a viewing. I said, I'm coming into some money at the weekend. Let me get that money cleared and I'll put an offer in, but you can tell them I'll offer asking price. I got quotes to get the bathroom done. I was like, literally, and it come the month and I was like, waiting for the call. Didn't happen. I was like, it's all right, they're delayed a day. Didn't happen. I was like, what?
You're the most annoying person, that poor person that was selling their house.
I know, I was gutted. I had to ring them up and say, I'm really sorry, that money didn't happen.
They're like, oh, actually, I did win the lottery. It never.
No, but yeah, but that's the thing that's always confused me with manifestation, that why? And also, I can't get my head around the fact that I know I'm going to be a millionaire. I don't know how I can describe that to you. I just know that's what I'm meant to be, but I don't know. I can't imagine me earning that much money. I can only ever imagine me winning that much money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that then goes into a whole different conversation about why do you feel like you're not worthy enough to earn it and you're only worthy enough to win it, which, let's not get into like a...
I think I just can't be bothered, Hannah. I think that's the problem. If we're being honest.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, do we get to, if we can't, because I'm exactly the same. I also can't be bothered. And then I say to myself, well, am I kind of capable of having that burden then, if I already can't be bothered just at the thought of it?
Oh, I can definitely be bothered. I told you, I know I'm going to spend it. Yeah. Even to the point I'd get myself a PA so she can help me with it.
I wonder if that's partly, Gem, though, because like Hannah said earlier, everybody else is manifesting that same thing as well. It's not like a limitless thing where everybody can have it, and you're kind of almost in competition with all these other people. Whereas if it was, I'm going to earn £1 million and I feel really confident in that, all three of us could do that and that would be fine. But all three of us aren't going to win the lottery on the same night.
No,
but I feel like someone's got to do it. Why not me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's with things like the lottery, where the odds, because there's still like free will in play, right? So the odds of that they are so slim, where the odds on doing something yourself are so much higher. Where do you kind of stand on the kind of concept of, there's a bigger picture kind of like already mapped out for you? Maybe it could be that you will have that kind of wealth, but it won't it needs to come to you in a different kind of way.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm up for that. I don't care how it comes to me. Yeah. I just need that money. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've got to buy that bungalow for me nan and granddad. They can't keep living in Spain, Hannah. I can't do it. They to come home.
It's always I feel like I never have a very satisfying answer to, because obviously that is the question you get asked the most, like, how do I manifest like the lottery? I feel like I don't have a satisfying answer.
No, but do you know though, you are, and I must admit I have said this to you before as well, when you did a manifestation like workshop thing, didn't you, over a few days, and I did that, and I used that stuff that you've taught me. Even to this day I still have a note that comes up on my phone. Yeah, it always works out for me. Everything is rigged in my favor, still on my phone every day. And also there was something else you did, and then I got like a random completely out of the blue tax rebate of like 700 quid.
Yeah, I love it.
And stuff. So I get things like that happen. And but I think as well, just learning about manifestation changes your outlook on stuff, because you automatically don't want to be like, oh, of course that happens to me. Shit things always happen. And that kind of attitude that I think I grew up with my mum always saying, oh, bad things happen in threes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's two. Oh, you're like, oh, of course. Come on, let's shit things happen, shall we? Great, let's do that. But it's not like that. And now and I don't know if you're the same, and you, Lauren, but if something bad happens, I'm like, well, there's obviously a lesson, let's just learn it and move on, rather than dwelling on it.
See, I struggle. I was going to ask you actually, Hannah, like how you feel in terms of what you just said about like everything being mapped out and stuff as well, because I struggle with, it takes every effort in me not to be a massively negative person. Like I naturally go to the negative on absolutely everything. I've always been that way. And I really struggle with the idea that I can't change things, and that I can't, like that doesn't bring me any comfort at all. It does kind of the opposite to me.
About you're very proactive. You like to get shit done.
I like to get stuff done, and I like to think that ultimately if I want to change something I can. I don't like the concept. It actually freaks, like the idea of fate and stuff freaks me out more than it comforts me, and I realize why it comforts some people, but it doesn't for me. You
still have free will though. You can always fight, not fight, but like you can always do differently. Like I do still believe that people can like massively fuck up their life, and it's not because they was predestined to live a really hard life, but just because they gave into their demons or their negative voices. So yeah, as much as I kind of do believe that we have a kind of fate, destiny, we kind of have a intention for our lifetime. I do still believe that you have free will, and that can go either way, good or bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird one for me, and I think the same with kind of like learning lessons from things and stuff. I find it very hard. I say out loud more about kind of learning a lesson from something than actually feeling it. Like it's not something that I digest very easily. I think just because you kind of get to a point where I don't know, I feel like, so I go into like victim mode, I guess, if it's like, if a lot of stuff happens, and then I find it really hard to be positive and put a positive spin on things. That's something but then I think it's just because, not that everybody hasn't, but I feel like I've been dealt a relatively rough hand of cards for the first kind of 25 specifically years of my life, and I think it just, that then, I don't know, I just find the whole concept really hard, and it's something I would like to be better at.
Yeah, it is hard, and I totally do believe that it almost gets to be a little bit easier for me, because I've not personally had the hugely hard times, but I've had that for the kind of people around me. I remember when I first kind of got into this space, it was a very much around the same time when my sister got very, very ill. And I remember kind of her just like, not even from a, you know, a negative space, but just from curiosity, like, how can you believe in stuff like the law of attraction? Are you saying that I've attracted having cancer and stuff? And obviously I can't sit there and say, well, yes, you have. and I don't believe that. But, you know, there's definitely still parts of it when it comes to, you know, like shit stuff happening and like the cards that we sometimes get dealt, like, well, why has that happened? What is the purpose of that then? You know, and again, very easy and very privileged of me to sit here and like cast an opinion on it when something huge like that personally hasn't happened to me. But I kind of do like to think that, you know, it is because there's some reason as to why, and you know, we will only kind of like maybe fully understand it like when we meet our maker and we're on our deathbeds of like, oh, I'm actually so glad that happened way later than I thought it was going to, or like in a really different way or experience than I kind of thought it was gonna happen. I think I have to believe that, especially in like completely different topic here, but if I think about it in kind of I would say the biggest upset that I have for my life is I'm really struggling to find, you know, a partner. Like that has been the thing that I've found just impossible to do for so long. And I almost kind of especially before I worked on myself and changed my mindset and kind of like went on my healing journey and all that kind of stuff, when I was like very, very depressed and in a very low place, you know, I would often get so upset about it and just been, you know, like, I'm gonna be lonely forever, like, why does nobody ever pick me, blah 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 blah. And even though, like I said, you know, I'm still sat here single now, but I just choose to, instead of like feeling the victim about it, which I 100% have a lot, I choose to kind of think, well, it's because one day I'm gonna know why I had to be 35, 40, 50, however old I will be when that happens. Like, you know, I have to just trust that I will understand why it was hard for a long time, because it had to be this way. And I completely know that that's like not the same.
It is. I think where that fear comes in for me is it's like it's very well to kind of be like, if you could tell, and I know this isn't how it works, but if you could tell me that, or even if I could tell you like that will happen for you when you turn 37, you can be then like, cool, I'm gonna go live my life because 37, cracking, awesome. But it's the not knowing that it ever is gonna happen that I struggle with.
Yeah.
I struggle with the trust there. That's where I struggle.
But if someone was to say to you, so if you know, if I said to you, Lauren, I now can see your future, and whatever it is that you want, you're going to have it in the next 12 months, would you believe me?
I actually think I would.
So if you could believe me enough, then why can't you believe yourself if you say that?
I don't know. I think I don't have, I don't think I have a lot of belief in my own kind of strength, I guess, which sounds really dark, but I think because I've always been like super anxious and super depressed and whatever, I've kind of had to learn to not, that I'm not the one that holds the, like, I don't know, I don't trust myself, because I kind of allow myself to get into, not that I do, but in my brain, I allow myself to get into these like really negative spaces and all of that. And I think I I almost feel like a child. And it's like, if an adult can come along and give me an answer, then awesome. Of course I'm going to believe you because I'm the child. Like, I don't, you know?
I do the exact same thing. I'm not saying to you I don't. But the only reason why I asked you that is because, and I don't know what you feel about this, Hannah. You know, I get super anxious, especially around health, right? And that to me is a massive problem. And the constant reassurance seeking, Lauren, you know I do the exact same thing. But I bought a pendulum and I ask it questions.
Yeah. And has kind of anything come from any of those questions as of yet?
Yeah, it told me I wouldn't win the lottery, but it also told me I didn't have cancer, which I didn't, so great.
Well, so therefore it's got 100% accuracy.
But I've asked it, but that to me gave me the confidence.
But what if it gives you the answer you don't want?
Well, then fucking answer it again. The thing is, the problem with that is, right, and
it's like me with my horoscope. I go to like my sun and I'm like, nah, I don't like that one. Let's go to moon. Let's go look at that one.
But what I'm getting at with that is, it's like they say, don't they, every answer to every question you'll ever ask is already within you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? And it sounds daft, but if you do that work, go into your subconscious, I've done it with counselling and stuff, the weird stuff that comes up. And I know what kind of stuff you want, babes. And I know that will happen for you. I know you're like, you don't know that. But I do. And that's the thing. And I think that, but knowing it in yourself is different. Same with you, Hannah. We know you're going to get snapped up by someone. We know this is happening.
Yeah.
But
we do now. I try to like, and again, I feel like this is a very a bit of an easier one to kind of have this perspective of. But now I kind of, instead of, whilst I'm waiting for this to happen, and I like, we can apply this to like any things we're trying to manifest, right? It's like, whilst I'm waiting for this thing to happen, I can choose to live from two places. I can either live from the kind of like desperation from it, and then from the very much like, oh, why hasn't that happened yet? Like, when is that going to happen? And that, or we can kind of live from the place of, I don't know exactly how and I don't know exactly when, but I would fucking love that to happen. That would, you know, that would elevate my life so much, and I am so excited for it to come. And they're just two very different energies to live from. And yeah, okay, we can't, you know, foresee the 100% certain that all of the things that we desire are going to happen, but we get to choose how we live waiting for them. And actually it's in that kind of like, it's in the small day-to-day energy that is going to be what either, you know, helps it to come quicker, or we just enjoy our lives in the mundane whilst we're waiting for it.
What I will say is I have got a lot better at, I don't necessarily trust fully that things will happen, but I am a lot better at enjoying the rest of my life in that process. I think for me, and for the things that I want, I think every time that feels like it's going to be a bit longer, it doesn't look particularly healthy, but I honestly don't see a problem with it. It's not me trying to like mask anything, but I throw myself massively into work, and it's not because I'm trying to hide anything. But for me, what I hear when something's not happening is I have more time to make this a success, and I will have an easier life when that thing happens, the bigger the success this is. And so I use that as like a as kind of that kind of motivation to keep going. And I think, not that my business is where I want it to be by any means, but I don't think it would be this far along had I not got that motivation. It's kind of for that bigger picture eventually.
Faith to have on it, for sure. Like, I think that's great.
Yeah, that's how I use it.
So if anyone that's listening to this, Hannah, who is like, what the fuck is manifestation? What is like an easy way to explain that in a nutshell for someone that's never heard about it before?
Oh, right, okay, I'm going to try. This is what I mean. I'm going to try to keep it without going down the rabbit hole. Okay, so it is setting the intention for something you are going to claim is going to come to you, is going to happen, you're going to create in your life. Putting it out there and just basically enjoying your life until it happens is what I think. And this can be down from the small things like getting your parking spot, you know, to the big things like, you know, the great love affair and the £1 million and all that kind of stuff. It is essentially just putting a desire out there and doing a combination of what you can physically and tangibly do to help, you know, create the road for this to come to you down, and then just knowing and believing that you do get to have it and being open to it coming in any kind of way, shape or form, and just kind of like almost like sitting there with open arms waiting for it. It's like a mixture, it's like a balance of the doing and the receiving, which is ultimately life, right? It's that balance of doing something in a very chilled way.
Like the give and take, I suppose, isn't it? Yin and yang and all that balance.
The masculine and the feminine and all that kind
Exactly
of
that.
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of, obviously we spoke about it a bit earlier about that kind of, you've done this kind of big 360 and kind of ended up ish where you started in terms of like the outside of everything. Do you think it was all worth it?
Yes, I do. Just I think for my own kind of internal peace and joy, and also like for my perspective on the future, because yes, you know, I'm kind of like back at a place where I'm, you know, kind of have like ripped the vision board up a little bit, and I'm kind of just like almost like back in my quieter life again, not knowing it. 3 years ago I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do with my life, and I felt depressed about that, I felt anxious about that, I felt stressed about that, I felt very, very unhappy about that. Kind of 3 years later, I'm again not knowing really what the fuck to do with my life. But from this time around, I feel like I have not only kind of like a hell of a lot of self-awareness, a zest for life that I never had before, something that I actually feel hugely passionate about, and it's almost like now, yes, I have moments of frustration where I'm just like, oh, like how do I channel this, like what do I do with this now? I like you, Gemma, like I know I'm going to have a certain level of success, and for me now that's not even like with a financial figure, it's almost like just a level in terms of like a platform. Like I know that I'm gonna have that, and I've got no idea how though, and in what way, in you know how that will manifest itself, but I'm very excited for it to reveal itself to me, and so even though I kind of feel like I'm kind of like back where I started, the perspectives are worlds apart, and that I wouldn't change for the world, even though, you know, there's definitely been, I've had to have quite a few ego deaths over this journey.
The thing is though, I think, and I absolutely, and I think that will 100% come for you, but what's interesting listening to you as somebody that just kind of looks from the outside, and obviously we're friends, we do occasionally talk, but from a lot of the time it's just kind of what I see from an outside. But you've already had much more of a platform than I think you do, through Gemma even just saying that she still has those things on her phone. But even like Gemma wouldn't be a coach if it wasn't for you.
Oh yeah, have I ever told you this story?
Have, and it makes me so happy.
No, but have I ever told you that?
I think I've told her before.
Oh, you've told me. Yeah, you are the reason I signed up for the click.
I love that so much. I mean, lol now because I'm not even doing it anymore, but
it's still
Yeah.
something that Gemma absolutely loves, and she wouldn't do it if it wasn't for you. So I think you've already had like more of a platform and an impact than you think you've had, basically. Because
I legit thought you were a celebrity.
I like to think that I am. I often
You are.
like, when will the rest of the world catch up? And I think it's funny, isn't it? Because like I genuinely feel like I'm going to not necessarily be a celebrity, but I genuinely feel like I know that I will have that kind of platform. I'm just like patiently waiting for everyone to twig on to the fact.
Number one lifestyle influencer, Hannah Moisley.
Alive.
Let's be having her.
exciting.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
don't forget us when you're rich and famous.
I'll try.
Oh, how many views do you reckon this podcast episode will get when Hannah makes it big time?
Get sponsor quick. Well, thanks so much for chatting with us, Han.
Yeah, I feel like I had no kind of idea what, and I was almost like a little bit worried, like because I was like, I don't really know how to talk about manifestation anymore. Just because, yeah, like I say, if we'd have had this conversation at the start of the year, I'd be, you know, just like throwing all the different techniques and rituals and stuff at you, and like I said, as much as you know, the statement you shared, Gemma, that's still one of my absolute favorites. But the thing is, like, I don't need the alert on my phone anymore, because I just genuinely go about my day subconsciously thinking that now, which is obviously what is helpful for it. That's why we do that kind of repetitiveness. But I feel like I don't know how to talk about it anymore, because I'm just like, well, it's as hard for me to explain as gravity now. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that comes when you know something so well anyway. I think that's why like just in any avenue, coming as an ex-teacher, it's hard to teach when you fully understand something. I think reception in year one, for example, are the hardest year groups to teach, because how can you not understand that 5 add 1 equals 6? Like, how can you not? Like, it doesn't make sense to me that you don't understand that. And especially when you're literally, you can see it, like, how can you not understand? And I think
it's hard to articulate it, isn't it? Because
when you fully grasp something, it's really, really incredibly hard for you to get that across. But what I will say, as somebody that manifestation in some ways in some aspects makes me quite nervous, I quite like the message of it can be really fucking simple.
yeah.
Because so I think there is that kind of part of it that people would still love to hear about. I realize there's not as much to say, but really love to hear about the simplicity of it, because not everybody's ready or willing to go down the full rabbit hole. And actually most people are going down the full rabbit hole. So I think it's quite refreshing that you're kind of at a place where you don't feel the need to do that.
Yeah, I think sometimes it can just come across simply from just sharing your thoughts as you go about your life can sometimes be as educational as it was as saying, hey, let me give you a workshop all about this.
I agree.
The thing as well though with that is actually manifestation is always something that's made me feel quite anxious.
Yeah,
because as someone who I'm quite open about the fact, you know, experience anxiety, I've experienced it a lot over my life. When I first read The Secret, I absolutely shit myself, because I was like, all the things I worry about are going to come true.
oh yeah, it's putting a lot of pressure in your hands, isn't it? And I kind of, like, as we said a bit ago, it's definitely opening up to a lot of unnecessary kind of internal drama of these are just as all of fucking society is, right? Like, these are the things that I should be manifesting, and if I'm not, then there's something wrong with me, or like I must not have much self-belief because I'm not manifesting £1 million. Well, you know, did you want £1 million before you found, you know, before you knew that about manifestation and actually how, oh, I can, you know, magically attract things into my life? Before you had that concept, you would never have doubted your self-belief, but all of a sudden now you are. It's, you know, there's definitely room for it to kind of like it's become more kind of, and I have 100% been guilty of being part of the narrative of this, but as it's become kind of like more mainstream and more fashionable, there's definitely then become, you know, it's also part of the elite and the aesthetic and the pressure to be those things. And that's kind of like what I was saying, like alluding to a little bit earlier, is yes, I have kind of like said, oh, I literally remember, this was last year, I kind of wrote in my little journal, like, oh, I really fancy going on holiday. I'm going to manifest a holiday. And 10 days later, I was in Dubai. And yeah, so technically I manifested that. But it's also come from an absolute place of privilege. And it's, you know, where sometimes that line gets a bit blurred, and so I'm also trying to kind of figure out how I want to teach things that's not that is coming just from the simplicity of it and not coming from that place of privilege.
Get that. You sat in your nice flat with your nice job and your nice life and all of that. It does become, I can understand how that can be. Yeah, it's very easy, isn't it, to talk to other people that are in very, very different situations and kind of talk about manifestation. But I think all of it is a bit grey. I think that's like what you can take away from it. Gemma isn't going to randomly manifest that she's got cancer because she worries that she's got cancer. And in the same way that all of it's kind of grey, and there's room for, like you say, you have free will as well, and you can go off in the direction you want to go off in and things like that. I think it's just kind of
other people, like with a lot of things, other people have free will as well. Like other people in your life have free will that will also affect.
But that's it. But it also, to me, is almost comforting. So when I was younger, I always used to say, oh, I don't want to grow old. I'll die. I'm going to die at 35 because that's so old. Well, you know, joke's on me, fast approaching that age. But when I read The Secret, because I'd been saying that for such a long amount of time, I thought, shit, what have I done? And then I was like repeating to myself every day, I'm going to die when I'm old, of old age in my bed, and I'm going to be like 110. And it's like trying to like undo what I considered to be this terrible thing I've done. Like, what have I done? But actually, the comforting thing to me is that, well, you know, you've not won the lottery, Gemma, and you've been planning that every day since you were 16, and you're not going to die at 35 just because you said it when you were a kid. So it's that, you know, I think it's also, like you say, it's realizing that it's not as quick as, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be a size 10, I'm going to win the lottery, and I'm going to have a Chanel handbag because they're going to make me a special vegan one with vegan lambskin.
It's going to be a matter of time. I've got a pair of vegan jocks now, so.
Oh, you vegan as well?
I'm a vegetarian, but I try not to, you know, wear the flesh.
Yeah. If I don't... it is hard, especially with trainers.
Yeah. So I give it a matter of time, and Chanel will have a vegan handbag. I guarantee it. You're probably manifesting it right now.
All I've learned from this conversation is that I'm going to mute Gemma when she turns 35 because she's going to be up on my fucking WhatsApp and Voxer every 5 seconds thinking she's about to die.
No, I'm not. As long as I don't win the lottery, I'm fine. Maybe that's why I've not won the lottery, because I consider winning the lottery.
That's why you don't play the lottery, because you're scared you're going to win.
And then I'll die.
Like the day after your 36th birthday.
You what? So I'll win the lottery the day after my 36th birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm down with that. I'm also going to die at 110 now, so we're all good with that as well.
I would hate to be 110. Like, no, I don't want to be.
No, mate. I'm going to get to I'm going to get to 110. I'm going to be sprightly for my age as well.
I want to make, I'm calling mine at like a solid 96.
Oh, 96 is a good age. My gran died at 96.
I was going to say, I would edge a bit earlier than that, to be honest. I'm not somebody that really wants to get to a point where I can't look after myself, and I also don't want to get to a point where my husband and my kids are dead.
Oh,
That's when you outlive your kids. I feel like
yeah, no, I wouldn't outlive my kid. He
you
can
would
go
at 110 potentially, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, if I die at 110, go
Yeah.
111, angel number, very nice. And then Elliot will be, 80. No, he'll be all right. He'll live to his old. He'll be fine. Yeah, it's fine. I've got it sorted.
Like, what was all that manifesting for? Was it worth it? Did I actually get what I want? And do I care?
I'll tell you what, Hannah, we'll invite you back on when we're all there and we'll see.
Yeah. Oh my God. It
has been lovely.
What I want to do with my life.
It's been so lovely chatting to you, though.
Thank you. Yeah.
And never be worried about coming on. We generally do just chat shit. Like there's no set theme.
I absolutely love to go down the rabbit hole. So yeah, I am willing to dive down there with you at any other time. About anything.
Yay.